Hello, Dave and Tim here for a special guest Campbell for a rather special episode of the Single Malt Review.
That's a fantastic place to sit, Campbell. Do you want to come back here? I think this is going to be second intro time, isn't it? Yep.
Hello, you're back with the Single Malt Review. Dave and Tim here, a special guest Campbell, as we have a bit of a special guest review, in a manner of speaking.
Yes, we do, as Campbell immediately puts himself back in front of the camera. All right, Campbell, I think people have seen you now. Off we go. There he is. We want to go. Some of you will remember we did a review of the venerable, you'd have to say, Woodford Reserve Straight Kentucky Bourbon. But I was, much to my chagrin, we found out that they just for us, personally, in a real hands-on bit of craft, watered it down for our market to 40% from its natural strength, well, its domestic strength, of, what does it say, 45.2. And viewer and, well, bourbon hero Ian Holmes sought to remedy this by sending us a bottle of the real stuff, which we have gratefully received. So now, armed with this, we can do a comparison of the two Woodfords and see what difference does 5.2% bourbon make. And I think it's going to make more than a wee bit, but we shall have to find out.
To be fair, we both enjoyed the domestic strength Woodford Reserve. However, I enjoyed it a great deal more than Tim, who didn't much like the lower strength. I was fine with that, but you found that it was really lacking something.
Well, don't get me wrong, I would drink Woodford Reserve all day and long into the night, but I think strength is an inseparable part of bourbon. Bourbon is a strong, a powerful spirit, and if it loses that, it loses its sort of identity as a bourbon. I think it becomes sort of wishy-washy. It's not, it's entering the Scotch whisky arena, and it doesn't have nearly enough of the sort of subtlety and nuance and breadth of flavour that Scotch does, that allows it to survive at these low strengths, because there's plenty of Scotches at 40%, and they do rather better, I think, for themselves. Bourbon, it needs that power, it really does, to be the bourbon it wants to be. So, what we will do is do a little comparison now, and see, as I say, see what that 5 and a wee bit makes.
So our scores were quite close. You rated an 83, I gave an 85. But yeah, you're definitely critical of the effects of that lower strength.
See, I just think in a bourbon like this, a very well-made premium bourbon, which it is, I think it can do better, and I think it will, now that it's got this little enhancement. Just in terms of visual properties, I would expect the strong one to look a wee bit darker, and so it does. I'll bring those a little closer to the camera without knocking anything over. So, this one here, the real stuff, a little bit darker, at least to my eye, than over here, which is the 40%. Hopefully that comes through on the camera, because it is fairly evident to look at. And for some reason or other, there's just a little bit of... Is yours looking just a little cloudy on the 40% as well?
Cloudy? Yeah, you are absolutely right. There is a degree of opacity there which is lacking from the stronger, darker spirit.
That's a wee bit peculiar. I really couldn't explain why we're seeing this little bit of cloudiness. It probably means that, like most, conceivably all straight Kentucky bourbons, I'm not exactly sure if there's a rule that stipulates this, unchill filtered. So that's good to see, one way or the other. Possibly it just got a wee bit cool in your cupboard, and the added water caused it to cloud up. Who knows?
So curious differences in the labelling here, since we've got products produced for two different markets here. Just a little thing to notice, like the Labrot and Graham's is front and centre on the logo above the Woodford Reserve labelling on the North American release, with a little LG in the rondelle there, whereas ours is simply Woodford Reserve with a WR in the same spot. It's not really relevant to what we'll be trying, just curiosities in how the same product is presented and marketed for different people.
Who knows? Who knows? So, the nose. Oh, still smells just fine. You know, Woodford Reserve, not messing around, even if it is under strength.
Oh, that is...
But there is a difference.
Crystal clear. It's got kind of like a knife edge to it. Oh, yeah.
The lower percent, the original, that we, well, as far as we're concerned, the original, the one we tried first, the 40%, it's got a much sweeter nose. Sweeter, softer, more sort of floral kind of a thing going on, whereas the 45, as Dave said, that's got a bit more of an edge to it. It's a stronger nose, there's more of a...
It's almost like someone's dumped an ice cube into it. It's like you've chilled and down and kind of that sort of harshness you get from breathing deep on a cold winter's day.
Yeah, it's somehow cleaner than the 40%.
There's less of a fug to it. It's more just a straight to the senses, whereas you get more of a gentle cloud of aromas off the 40%.
Yeah, that's really quite red. This is sort of the 40% is this sort of gentle melange of flavours, whereas this is clear as a bell, the flavour coming out of here. This really rings with its notes. There's snappy sort of spice here. The wood is, the wood is much more keenly edged to it.
It's much more of a lingering sort of a looming impression of what you're going to taste when you take a sip on this one.
It just seems more honed somehow.
Yeah, it is more portentous. It's got it promises more of what you're going to taste.
Well, all right.
Speaking of taste,
let's see. Starting with the 40.
Still every bit as good as I remember it, though.
Yeah.
It is gentle because of that 40% strength, but it is not wanting for complexity and layers, which is what I like so much about it.
It tastes like it's Woodford, all right. It's it's sort of clean. It's cooling. There's a menthol quality to it. It's
a bit buttery, a little
nice
corny,
nice and oaky. But the sort of the butterscotch doesn't run out of control. It's perfectly good. It's Woodford Reserve. It's what we it's probably what we taste of quite a lot down in New Zealand because it's what we get.
Yeah. But
let's try.
Onto its stronger, beefier.
Let's try the real stuff.
Oh, speaking of the real stuff, damn, that is it in abundance. That is powerful. It's fiery, and it is mouth-filling. It is just a cascade of bourbon and spice flavours.
Yeah.
Top to bottom.
I think the difference for me, the main difference there, in terms of the flavour profile, obviously they're very similar because they're the same bourbon. There's just a bit more bourbon in one of them. Yeah. The difference there for me is the length of the finish. This one lingers for ages.
Yep, I'm still going. I can still taste all of it.
It's a much weightier, much more concentrated palate, which all those all check out. That's all what you'd expect when you put more bourbon in a bourbon. Yeah. So that's good to see.
It's all the things which are good about the lower strength one, just supercharged, wound up to a higher level, and without that sort of genteel waftiness which comes from the lower strength. It is big and hard hitting, just dumps its cargo of quality onto your tongue all in one go.
That's arguably better than the other one for tasters like us. The one little way I could play sort of company focus group devil's advocate here is that the case could be made across the boardroom table that bourbon of that strength, bourbon of that clarity and sort of power, New Zealand or Australasian palates wouldn't understand. People would try that and go like, "Oh, that's too strong," because they're used to white label Jim Beam swill and whatnot. Whereas they may find the 40% more palatable. That's, as I say, heavily playing devil's advocate there. I mean, the real reason they did it is to save. You'd have to work out what the weight of 5% was in a concentrations and maths. It's not simply you're not saving 5%. You're saving that much of 45. So you're saving more like 10 or 20% when you work it all out because you're not paying for the water. Or at least you're not paying a great deal.
Woodford is marketed as rather a premium bourbon out here.
Oh, it's sure
definitely not aimed for folks who prefer
Woodford is a premium bourbon wherever it's sold. I usually use Woodford as the sort of the flagpole as to everything beyond Woodford in price. Everything further up the mountainous bourbon shelf is more and more premium, and things below Woodford more your stock standard bourbons. It really is it's the demarcation line in my book as to whether you're dealing with and paying for a premium bourbon or not.
For that reason why I'd be slightly confused as to the choice to sell it at lower strength here, just for the sake of local tastes and palates. You know, if it's going to be marketed as...
I didn't say it was a good argument. I just said that's the only one I could think of.
No, it'd be a curious reason for a company to take. Yeah,
to put the bourbon, put the Woodford people in a slightly better light. I think that's pretty definitive. All Woodford's a good thing, and this is more of a good thing, making it a better bourbon. I'll just cogitate on the score for a second here. What was you looked up our scores for the previous one?
Yep, you rated this the lighter one an 83. I get an 85.
Right. Well, this one is going to beat that pretty handily. This one, for myself, this is a fairly effortless 89 now. This is a really good bourbon. Because, and that's a big jump, and you might wonder why is that so big when the flavours are the same. The flavours are the same, the presence is completely different. And it's that presence, that force of character, which makes bourbon to me, rather than weird tasting scotch, which it is at 40% too often. That's not transformed the whiskey, but it has seriously improved it.
Yeah, I'd agree. It is a distinct improvement. I would rate the higher strength version an 88. So, curiously, not as high as your score now, but still an improvement over my score for the previous one, because I was quite happy with the taste of the 40%. It's just, as you say, the sort of the delivery mechanism of the 45.2%, that just elevates things higher.
Well, there you go. I think that's about as analytical as we can possibly be on that one, and as a definitive result as we could have hoped for. And we have subsequently discovered that some of the smaller bottles of Woodford available here are the American domestic strength. So we now have a line on a locally sourced
just discovered it on the way here today even. You can buy it in miniature, but it's only 50 milliliter miniatures, which come in at high strength. The full size bottles still the lowest strength.
It's possible they just couldn't be bothered doing a Australasian bottle in the smaller size. Maybe that's where the cost benefit kind of ran out for that one. But anyway, so we do know where to look if we want to source some more. But thanks a great deal to Ian for sending this one in.
A scholar and a gentleman.
And now that we've sort of broken the seal on receiving things, if you would like to send us a particular bottle, we do have some stipulations, but send us a message on the Facebook, or send the channel email a message, and I will get in touch and make sure that you're not a crazy person, and let you know how you can get in touch with us regards sending stuff in, because we've got certainly nothing against it. We'd love to try lots more things than we do, and goodness, the whiskey companies certainly aren't going to send us anything. We're too real for that. We're too dangerous. So if you've got anything sitting about, we'll gladly crack in and give us your thoughts on it. But anyway, we'll let you see what you can come up with. In the meantime, we will come up with something very, very nice for you next, and we will leave you with that. Stay safe, Slanger. We will be right back. This has been the Single Malt Review. Thank you for watching.